terrifying. The last stream we did, we had 1,500 people watching live. And I was like,
that gives me anxiety.
yeah, yeah. And then everybody's like, hey, do Rap God by Eminem. Like, we did, we had 1,500 people watching live.
What's
And I was
happening? That gives me anxiety.
like, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
what
then
happens.
like,
This
hey,
is why I
do
don't do
Rap
this.
God.
Yeah, we're not doing this. I
That's
don't
fine.
know how we can do that.
I'm also fine just doing your comfort zone too. And then yeah.
I would totally be willing to. I just don't know how to do it without it talking back to me. You just remind me of a question I wanted to ask you. If my ADD is so bad, it's ridiculous.
I'm fine.
I am so like this is the first like I almost never have my face on anything because people are so fucking mean. I don't know how you guys deal with all this, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, I'm sure I have so much to say.
I will start pressing record. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you and I are going to chat for like 5 hours and we'll never get to an interview because I kidnap people.
And we'll have this amazing conversation that should be shared everywhere and it'll just be hidden.
Do you know how many times this happened to me?
Oh, I believe it.
All right. Press the record now. Okay, record to computer, record to cloud. Choices. We'll do cloud. Okay, so as we're already starting to laugh, like everything's happened off screen, which it did. We've had like 10 minutes of chatting already.
Yeah.
But I soft stalked Derek on TikTok because you saw my FYP page for something that happened to you and your wife who is deaf. And I was frustrated and appalled for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I reached out hoping that you could talk about this because I keep hearing people talk about how, oh, the ADA is there, it'll protect you. And I get so frustrated because I use a wheelchair and that is not my experience. And you certainly had a fascinating experience. So I'll let you just kind of start off with, do you want to start there with what happened or do you want to start with you and your wife? Because you guys have the cutest stories.
Oh, stop.
Oh, no, I can't stop. That's my job. Literally, no, I can't stop.
I can do a quick little just kind of explanation. My wife is deaf. Her and I, we met 6 years ago. We met on a chat program called Discord, and I okay, I need to censor this story. I don't want to get too awful, but it started with me posting pictures of corned beef, and that not the euphemism. No. Anyway, so she slides into my DMs asking me about that, and then we started talking, and we hit it off. We're like the same person, and then she says, "I have to warn you, I'm deaf," and I'm like, "You're never gonna believe this, but I studied sign in college," and it went from there, and we started a long distance relationship. We were in that for about 2 years and then got engaged 1 year, married, and we've been together, married for 3 years now.
And we're going to absolutely talk about how you guys had date nights
Oh.
on Zoom or whatever app you guys use to talk,
Mhm.
because that was adorable and I have questions. But I thought we'd start first with the reason we're here, which is what
Yes.
happened in Florida.
So we usually have a fantastic experience with all of our local concert venues, but we tried to go to a new one. They're a medium-sized venue, and we shot them an email 6 weeks before the show. And it was a show that my wife really, really wanted to go to, someone I wasn't that familiar with, and we had so much happening. A lot of the times, if venues fall through, I'll just interpret it myself, but I just did not have the time to do the prep work and I wanted a date night with my wife. So we email them, and they reply back quickly. We email saying, "Hey, we have tickets. Here are our ticket numbers. We're just trying to figure out your accessibility policy and how we can request an interpreter." So the manager emails back quickly and says, "We're not providing an interpreter. You're welcome to bring one, and we'll pay for the interpreter's ticket." So we immediately emailed back and said,
I need to ask a quick question. So they weren't
yes,
willing to pay for the interpreter, which in California, I believe that's at $20 or $30 an hour. Okay,
they,
they were willing to
yeah,
pay for the ticket.
they would only pay for the ticket for the interpreter. That's it. They said we needed to pay for the interpreter themselves. Yeah. So we replied back and said, hey, I don't think that that's how that works. We were under the impression that you would be able to provide an interpreter. That's part of having a public business. We didn't say that. I wasn't that snarky at that point. And then it was just total ghosting. There was no reply. We emailed every week for 6 weeks. We copied in the NAD. So the NAD, that's the National Association of the Deaf, has an advocacy letter for deaf people trying to go see concerts and festivals. So we attached that showed them, hey, here's the exact ADA law that you're breaking. No reply. So we showed up to the event. We're in line, and I'm just like, so we showed up for 2 reasons. Because a lot of people have criticized us and said, why would you even show up? One, maybe there's an interpreter. Maybe communication just broke down. And 2, we don't want to show people that if you ignore disabled people, they just disappear. That's the big one for us. So when we showed up, we're in line and we're getting ready to scan our ticket. And I look over and there's a radio that has the same name as the manager that ghosted us. And I'm just like, okay, this is going to get really interesting now. So we talked to the person scanning the ticket to say, hey, where do we set up to see the interpreter? And then that person looks clueless, rightfully so, and says, hey, manager. And I'm just like signing, and you could just see the facial expressions when, oh, yeah. So the manager.
You can swear on here too, in sign or out loud. Welcome to fucking swear all you want. I'm in chronic pain, and if I don't use the word fuck every 5 minutes, I think my pain increases by 10%.
Okay, perfect. Because my pain internally was increasing, not to make light of your pain, but I was just like, fuck, what do I do? I don't know how to sign this long without these happening. Okay, so this fucking manager, no. I'm sure that she's a very, very pleasant person, maybe. But so she greets us, says, follow me inside, disappears, is on the phone for about 10, 15 minutes, and then pops back up and says, hey, there's nothing we can do. This is above me. And yeah, if you want, I can try to get you a set list and you can Google the lyrics. Now, later in the story, this part changes. They've changed their story about 3 times or 4 times. So I said, that's not acceptable. That's not accessibility. And she said, well, you can either do that or I can give you your money back. And I said, I would love my money back. And she said, I just need to see the ticket numbers. I said, that's fantastic. It's on the 4th email you ignored. Passive aggressive? Me? No. So, but it was heartbreaking because this was the first real time that a public place has been just straight out awful. We've had places that have tried to like do sneaky things to not provide us access. This was just in our face, like, nope, screw you, you're done. We're not providing that. We don't have to. So we left, we made some videos, and then I wrote a long email to the owners of that. The manager did give me the owner's email. I just said how disappointed I was. And I talked about when I was in college and right after, I used to go to that venue all the time. But my perspective of that venue has changed gigantically since I've become, because my experience with the disabled world is recent. It's six years ago. When I was in my ASL classes, it was a little bit. I would go and I would hang out with my deaf professors or other deaf students, but it ended there. When I met my wife, my whole world has changed to being so accessibility forward. So yeah, we left, and then do you want me to get into all of everything that happened with government stuff after, or do you want to break there?
Yes, because I'm so tired people misunderstanding the ADA. They think it's this magic bullet. They don't need to worry or think about accessibility because the law will take care of it. The law
Yeah.
doesn't, and it's expensive, and we're all poor. We
Hmm.
cannot afford the lawyer.
Hmm.
So I thought maybe it would be kind of nice for just a rundown, because I don't think people realize how little teeth the ADA actually has. Yes, it's illegal. Will they do anything about it?
No,
And I
no.
live in a liberal state. I don't live in Florida. I live in a
Hmm.
state where you would think, oh, they will absolutely. No, they are not.
Nope.
My building for my physical therapy has the wheelchair access in front of the stairs. Look at the smile on my face. Is there a ramp near the stairs? No, 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 no. You have to go out into the parking lot, up a ramp with the other cars, and around. Now, there is another one at the top of that. But if those wheelchair accessible spots are taken, there's not a lot of options. So,
No.
no, I just want to really get into this because I am so tired
Yes.
of people thinking they understand the ADA when they don't.
And I've had so much criticism in the past that has really like I have an awful habit of just focusing on negative comments. It's what I do. And I've had so
Start a
many.
podcast. It will kill that in you. You'll just be so tired of them. You won't even notice.
Yeah.
It's the quickest way to a thick skin.
Woo! Yay! I can't wait. But I've had so many professional interpreters, and I love 99% of professional interpreters. But I've had so many that will hear our story, hear my wife's preference of having me interpret every once in a while, and say, no, that is not allowed. You are not a certified interpreter. Your wife should never use you as an interpreter. And I'm just like, but do you want to ask her what she wants? No, it doesn't matter. It's just easy. Just go to the ADA. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So we did. And so yeah, and that so we did two things after all of this happened. Well, three. We tried to find a lawyer for help, and a lot of lawyers said, I mean, it is a perfect win case, but Title III of the ADA does not pay a lot of money. So lawyers can only make money from their hourly. There's not the big, you can't sue for, I'm forgetting, I'm drawing a blank, but there's two. It's like damages and like it's punitive and compensatory, something like that.
I'll
But
take it.
yeah, you can't sue for those under Title III. You can for work employment related stuff, but not for Title III public access. So the lawyers don't want to take the case, and if they do, they're going to charge us $750 an hour. And our only hope is to maybe get that money back. So we tried that, and we're like, we can't afford that. So then we didn't want to go straight to the feds, so we went to Florida. The Florida Commission of Human Relations sent them everything. We got letters from the venue's lawyers and the manager where they said things like, "Oh no, we offered to allow his wife to lip read the bands," which um,
I'm just thinking with the microphone in front of your face, that's not a
lip
thing.
reading with the yes, exactly. I'm just like, "Hello, cat." Oh. Um, but yeah, so there was that, and then they said that there was they said that they thought that I should be interpreting because they saw me interpret a comedy show on my TikTok. But they also said in the same letter from that manager that they thought that my wife was clueless because I wasn't able to interpret the situation properly to her. So that just playing on those tropes of this poor disabled girl just clueless to the situation around her and can't communicate for herself. So that really was, I was just like, all right, fuck this. We're going to go to the DOJ and they manage the ADA. So I called an ADA specialist and she stopped me in the middle of this story and she was like, huh, that is so illegal. Come here, cat. So she said, file, 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 file. And I did. We sent them everything. And everybody was like, it's gonna be a long, long time. You're gonna have to wait. We got a reply back in about 3 days that said, hey, we're sure your case has merit, but the DOJ doesn't have time to look at everything. So sorry, we're closing this. And that's it. That's where we are right now.
Well, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm
So
enraged on every level from like infantilizing your wife,
mhm,
which just, I mean, trust me, anyone's been in a wheelchair knows that round.
I know.
Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, and we're gonna get to that in a minute because I did a deep dive on all your TikToks, and oh my gosh, your wife is so fun.
Yes. Yeah. I wish she was here.
I do
She,
too. I was kind of
yeah.
hoping, but
Yeah.
we can do something later too. Um, but this just shows how little teeth this has and how overworked the DOJ is too. I
Mhm.
mean, this is a lot, and they really do need their own department for dealing with the ADA. If they're going to take this at all seriously, there needs a steady department. So, if I'm understanding correctly, the only real recourse you have at this point is getting people upset enough on TikTok to keep calling this venue.
That is one thing that I'm actually very, very against.
Okay.
I'm I'm terrified that uh I just I don't know how to word this. We really can't afford to have anything come back on us.
I
I'm
see.
worried that, that their lawyer doesn't look like they're the most moral person if they're going to write this whole letter saying that, um, you know, oh, we're going to try and make sure that this deaf woman doesn't have access. So I'm trying not to go that route. It just, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should, but it's just one of those things. And it just reminded me because I really do also want to, because the day after the second round of this story went viral, that venue on their Instagram posted a video of them with an interpreter in that venue to try to deflect some of the negative comments. So they've used an interpreter on their page for clout while actively preventing us from our access.
Oh my God, the secondhand rage, I feel it's just so intense. And
It
I
was
hear you. It's to walk into anything where it's social media. And I brought that up mostly because I mean, granted, I just did call out a company by name, but I wasn't, I was as nice as I could be. And we can discuss that in a minute because it was actually over this interview.
Mhm.
Um, but when you're dealing with backlash online, there's no such thing as context. There's no such thing as people taking a beat and looking through everything. And you're right, that does open you up to a bunch of stuff. And I wanted to bring that up because I feel like that's the next thing people go to after the ADA as well. Just shame them. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's a lot of energy.
it is. It's a lot. And a few of our videos have gone a little viral on Instagram. And it's been interesting because when it gets out of my little circle and I start
Mhm.
to get just the mainstream people jump in, I have been called every name under the sun for this. I have been called a freeloader, a drain on taxes, just this far left liberal bleeding heart, everything. And this is from a person that I have specifically never talked politics on anything. I just talk about my weird life with my weird wife. That I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that might be the
I
new
think that's your new
tagline.
tag name for something.
Yeah,
I mean, that
yeah,
might be like your new project.
yeah. But it's crazy. And I think back about the ugly laws in Chicago and a lot of other cities had
I
them.
don't think a lot of people know what those are, but I think that's an important thing for us to start talking about right now.
Yes. So laws that said, hey, you don't look like you fit into society. And I'm really, really not doing these justice and explaining them fully, but to my understanding, it was, hey, you don't look like you fit in with society because of your disability, your, whatever. So you're not allowed out in public. And I was just like thinking to myself when I learned about these, that's so silly. No one would ever, ever vote for these now. And then I saw my comment section and I'm like, Oh, yeah, they would. Yeah, there's a lot of people that just hate the idea of somebody different being in public with them.
I, I don't even know if this has enough to do with this, but I'm going to go on a small little
Mm.
baby tangent just because it is right there with this. Is I when I'm on social media, I have a rule. I won't say anything that I wouldn't say in front of my teenager.
Hmm.
Uh, but I also like to do social experiments because this is basically my life. This room is mostly my life because of lack of accessibility.
Hmm.
And I like to have real conversations with people and see if I can get a conversation with someone who's being an asshole on social media just to see.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
had one that was really good, but it was wild to me because this I finally got to a point where we were talking about what we do for a living. And I was like, well, I run a podcast for disability. And he's like, well, that's really noble of you. And like, I'm sorry, what? I have like a wheelchair icon on my profile. Noble, okay. What do you mean? He's like, it's such a niche thing. There's so few people. And like, I'm sorry, there's billions of us. How are you getting? He's like, I don't see any of you out there. I'm like, now we get to the reason why I run this podcast. We can't leave our fucking houses because there's no accessibility, which goes back to the ugly laws. Because if you think architecture is made this way on accident, you're wrong. This is called hostile architecture.
Mhm.
Many countries have figured out how to take old buildings and turn them into accessible areas.
Yep.
This is done on purpose. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I just had
No,
to throw
you're
it
fine.
out there
You're
because
fine.
it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
You did something that I thought was incredibly brave. You asked a question to the world on social media, and cheers to you, my friend. You asked, at what point do I have the right to ask for an interpreter?
Hmm.
I want to hear how this went down. And I also very much want to hear what answers surprised you, even if it's those hateful comments. And what was the eventual breakdown of that?
And it's a question that I've asked my wife. Like my wife and I have asked each other, and we have long discussions about this in the privacy of our home. And I wanted to see because so many people had so many opinions on what we should be allowed to do. So I was like, okay, let us know. Now, the majority was anytime, doesn't matter the size of the venue. And that was cool to see. My favorite one that surprised me the most was it depends on how many deaf people are in the audience. And I'm just like, when we're buying tickets, do you think there's like this secret society of the deaf that's like, okay, in the next meeting, put on your robes and we're going to see what shows we're going to. So,
Oh, of like the monks with the Bibles.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, they can't have it too low because you need to be able to lip read and see.
The sleeves
No.
can't be too long. We have rules here.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if your hands are covered, I mean, come on. I love this. You know, I'm probably gonna wake up one day with my wife being in the death robes, like just because of this conversation. She's a weird woman. I love her.
I was gonna
But
say your wife sounds feral, and I like her so much.
oh yeah, yeah. She scares me. She's 6 feet tall of just like this strong, terrifying woman. I'm just okay.
Feral women unite. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But so most people were saying it doesn't matter the venue size. And then this is where her and I are like, I get the concept of that, but in practice, and this is where the difficult question comes out that um and I'm not trying to upset anyone in the disability community too, but hey, if we're going to an open mic comedy show and there's one bartender that works there and 15 people in the bar, do we have the right to request an interpreter? They'd sooner just say, we're not going to have the show at all because they can't afford it. So it becomes a question of where do we exactly draw that line where we will fight? Um, and the answer that her and I have for ourselves is 15 employees in the venue or the parent company of the venue.
And if I'm
That's
understanding that correctly, that's
yeah.
because they have enough resources.
Yes. Yeah.
This would not break them. This isn't a small mom and pop club. This
Right.
isn't like they're barely able to keep the doors open. You're talking about a venue that has millions of dollars behind them.
Mhm. Yep. And the one that we're in our whole thing with has over 100 employees.
So this wouldn't have broken them.
Oh, well, clearly not. If two
Yeah, they have
weeks
a lawyer. They've got
after
a lawyer.
we
They
were
can
there,
afford
they
that, like
hired one.
$750 an hour.
Yeah. And,
I mean, $30 an hour would be a bargain for them.
right.
But if
So,
you think about what they charged the lawyer, what they paid a lawyer so far to deal with the situation would have paid for the interpreter. And then,
yes, absolutely. The fees just from the lawyer themselves is way over what an interpreter for one night would cost. But I think to them, it's more of a moral thing where they say, we don't have to do this. Screw you.
you know, that hits me hard because I don't think there's many of us who haven't run up against
Yeah.
that sort of thinking. Like I've been fighting with a town in California forever.
Mhm.
Um, and they're like, no, change the character of our buildings to make it accessible. And it's like, no, it really doesn't. And here I can show you examples of what they've done in Europe.
Mhm.
This is how they've done it in Europe, and it's totally accessible, did not change anything, did not change the experience.
Yep.
And my drum that I beat on every episode, and everyone who listens knows I beat on this fucking drum, but no one keeps listening, is if you start from accessibility and universal design, you not only make something accessible for everyone, but it makes it convenient for everyone too.
The curb cut effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
And also our what we're seeing right now, which is translation. The captions that you're seeing right below, which is why, thanks to this interview, we have now switched what podcasting app we use. Because I used to use Riverside FM. I had other issues with them as well. But I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. And I wasn't sure if your wife was going to show up. And I forgot to ask. And I was like, there's no way I'm letting this woman come on and not be able to engage with us in the same way because
Right.
my sign language sucks. It's as bad as my Spanish right now, which is my son has absolutely pulled me out for it. It is humiliating how bad my Spanish is. And I used to be fluent. I used to be
Yeah.
fluent in sign language. It's right around where my French is. I can basically understand, but I'm going to say something embarrassing. And Riverside FM, which yes, I'm actually calling them out. I did just do a video calling them out. No native captioning, no native live captioning, the thing we have on everything. They
Yeah.
don't have it natively. And I was like, okay, we're done. You don't care about accessibility. I'm finished.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's tough. We went through all of that with Twitch. Her and I
oh,
do a cooking show on Twitch called Sign Kitchen, and the amount of work I had to do to set up captions was awful, awful, awful. It was,
how? When like Facebook, you can just do a Facebook Messenger thing with live captioning.
yeah.
Google, this is not like very proprietary, quiet little software. It's everywhere.
No. And what annoys me the most is that a lot of these companies that are so that just they refuse to work on their accessibility will also showcase how accessible they are, but ignore the actual disabled people that are like, we need this feature. And that, the venue that we're talking about, if you go to their website, the first thing that pops up is their accessibility page.
So cute.
Oh,
I'm
it just,
Yeah. And
yeah,
the other issue I have with it is the ADA rules are very loose. All they have to
yes.
do is, even if you can get so far as they get involved, they just
Mhm.
have to show meaningful change. That's all. And then
Yep.
they're fine. Also, the idea of what is accessible is done by people who are not disabled. So
Yes.
that's a big issue. I don't know if you guys have the same issue with dealing with deafness, but dealing with wheelchairs, what they consider is accessible is like wheelchair X Games to me. It's like I've ended up in rose bushes, and I am not kidding, chasing after my 2-year-old in a wheelchair in an
I
area
don't
that
mean to laugh. It's just I relate so strongly with this.
about it.
Oh,
Otherwise, you're gonna have to hear about me chasing after a 2-year-old in a wheelchair.
yeah. No,
It's
no, it's just,
funnier visually than it is audio.
yeah. It's just, I mean, it's the same thing with just lip read the bands, right? Like they just assume that that's how that works because they heard the word lip reading one time. And they said, oh, that's accessibility. And I can't believe I have that written in a legal fucking document. It just, it we didn't know if we should laugh or cry about that because it was just, yeah, because they said,
People, I don't think you have to choose. I mean, why choose?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they said lip read the bands. They said Google the lyrics. They said they would try to print the lyrics in one of their documents. Um,
What a fun date night for you.
oh
Read,
yeah,
sign.
yeah. And like, if they were really going to try to print the lyrics, why were they not there when we arrived? They had no plan on doing that, but reading that was enough for Florida to say, "Oh no, they're fine. They tried."
I'm just curious, did you contact the band and let them know what the venue was like?
Yes,
Okay.
accidentally. I didn't mean to, but I somebody asked who they were, and I just said, "Oh, it's a band called Catbite," and they saw the post and they publicly posted against that venue too, and they were just like, "Hey, we never want this to happen again. The next time that we're in town, let us know, and we will make sure that you have an interpreter."
Oh, go cat
That
bite.
was
I love the cat
yeah,
running by while you were saying that. That was
yeah,
I
it was
couldn't have
perfect.
timed that.
But
So in
yeah.
one of your videos, you had talked
Mhm.
about, I love how you said this because I think you and my husband would get along great and have lots to talk about. You said you didn't want to go to something where she wouldn't have the same experience you are. And
Yeah,
I think you discussed that in particular about maybe it wasn't Broadway show. I think it was when you guys were traveling overseas. Is that right?
yes. So we were in London, and my favorite musical of all time is Les Mis, and that plays there in the West End. So but in London, in England, we don't have the right to request an American sign language interpreter
Oh,
via
I think I need to take a real quick break here.
yeah,
I don't think people know that there are different languages in sign language. I think
yep,
we should cover that real fast because even
yes,
if it's
yes, yes.
English, British sign language is different than American sign language. And there's accents throughout different states, cities.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't understand any of BSL. BSL actually has a completely different alphabet too. So they have a two-handed alphabet. It's like A, B, C. I don't know. I'm an American. I want to be able to hold my beer while I sign my sign language.
That might be the most Florida you got today.
I have to do sneak in a little bit of Florida man every once in a while. But yeah, it's my wife knows a little bit of BSL, but we were not familiar with how accessibility works there. We did contact the theater and saw, do you guys have captioning? Do you have anything? And they just said no. And I was like, okay, we won't go. But my wife is awesome. And she just looked at me and she just said, motherfucker, I know how important this is to you. And I'm like, okay. She's like, we're buying tickets. I'm okay, okay, that's fine. So we ended up going, and she had her cochlear implant so she could hear the music, and she's familiar enough with it that she could kind of follow along. If it was Hamilton, she would just there's no interpreter needed there for her. But
We'll talk about Hamilton in a second.
can't wait.
I swear, anyone listening to this who knows me, I will not bring up that one scene. I promise we'll talk about something else. I have issues. I have issues about Hamilton. I love it. I love it with every fiber of my being. I've watched it 30 times at home because they're not wheelchair accessible. And that's here in the US. And you had brought up Broadway, and I have stories about Broadway. I'm not sure I'm able to talk about it because I was podcasting for another show.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But I think I can just say, without saying that this is because I got to talk to someone who was very high up in Broadway and had very little interest in accessibility, that anyone who goes to the theater here in the US, I think I only can speak for New York and San Francisco, but there's no access. There's what they're legally required to do, and it is not access. And it certainly isn't access from parking to get there. And then from there to parking, there's not safe, not okay. I actually had tickets to see Hamilton, like the first round, and I couldn't go because I looked at where it was and it was not safe for my wheelchair. And I know I'm going to get shit for this because someone's going to go, well, I used a wheelchair and I was fine. Mazel tov, blessed be, cheers, salute. I am so happy for your experience. And oh, my editor's going to hate me because I hear too, editor, my voice does go really high up and shrill when I'm mad, but I don't care. It's just so frustrating because, like, I think you probably are going to have a lot to say about this too, which is other people who have the same disability can sort of do the Pearl or Candace Owens level of anti-feminism that they do anti-disability access. I've done it. I can do it. Why can't you? Well,
Yep.
I have a different disability or a different level of that. And honestly, I'm tired of fighting. I'm older than most people. I'm exhausted. I'm
Mhm.
so tired. Like, I shouldn't have to fight for everything.
Yeah, one of the saddest comments that we had recently with all of this stuff that's happening with that concert was a father saying, I don't know why you guys are all complaining. You're all so entitled. My son is deaf and he's 16, and I taught him to never ask for anything. And
Yeah,
I was
poor
just
baby.
like,
Can we call CPS for that child?
right? I was like, that poor kid. Like that, I know so many deaf people, deaf friends of mine that have that same experience and they hate their family for it. Um,
First off, anyone who is speaking for someone else needs to exercise every level of caution in that experience.
yes. Yeah.
You are not the authority because you are the husband, wife, best friend, parent of your second aunt's goldfish's babysitter. You are not the authority. Like,
Right. And even when you my wife will say this a lot, and I know that it's funny saying that right after this, like, well, hello, I'm the able-bodied guy here that's just married to a deaf person, but even with her, her and I, whatever, we don't speak for every deaf person too, because
mhm.
our needs, and it's like what you were saying, our needs are different from somebody that might be able to use a hearing aid or maybe never learn sign and doesn't ever need an interpreter. It's just, it all depends on the individual. And yeah,
Your
Broadway.
cat killing me, by the way. All I can think of is if you were wearing anything with any fringe, that cat would lose its ever loving mind. With signing, and that cat is so obsessed with your hands. I'm like,
Yeah.
if that was
Oh,
my cat, I would have already like been deveined. I would be bleeding out because my cat uses claws. Um, what you're I wanted to be clear about why you and I are talking
mhm.
instead of and as much as I would love to have your wife on, I hope I can get you guys back on someday to
I
talk
would love that.
together.
Yeah.
Is because we're talking about your experience as a spouse, and I want to talk a little bit about inter-ability relationships because I'm
Mhm.
in one too. My husband is mostly healthy. We're old, but he's healthy. He's just older. And I wanted to talk about that experience too, because I know a lot of our listeners are on either side of this and want to know how to better advocate for their partners or advocate for themselves in a way that's not infantilizing. And I think you've shown such, at least in my opinion, you have definitely shown how to do that.
I would hope so, because one of the biggest complaints that I have when we're around just hearing people that we're meeting for the first time is it almost always happens where people will be nervous to talk to her and then they'll look over at me. They're like, okay, you're my sense of normalcy. Uh, I don't know how to communicate with her, so I'm going to communicate with you. And I'm always just like, I mean, because I'll hear things like, hey, Derek, ask her what she wants to do late. No, you can ask her. And then when people like when she'll leave and then come back, like maybe she goes over to the bar and gets a drink, I tend to get so many questions. And that's when I'll pull out my card of, oh, you came back. Okay, great. This person had a bunch of questions for you. They want to ask you, and I'm gonna go over to the bar now. And I force people in a nice way to break out of their comfort zone. And I know that it's terrifying to interact with the disabled person. I was there too. I was a little ASL2 student when my professor came in to the class and didn't say hi to anyone. I was like, wow, this guy's an asshole. And then the interpreter stood up and went, oh no, that's a real deaf one. Uh-oh. It's just um when you're faced with the unfamiliar, you gotta learn how to deal with it. And a lot of people, like, I try to give people a little bit of leeway, because if you're not exposed to something, okay, if I can watch the gear shift in your head and you're trying, totally fine. If you're an asshole, that's different. But we see so many people. I remember her and I, we went out to eat one time with, it was a deaf couple, and then my wife, deaf, and then myself. So they're all voice off. My wife does speak, but this time she was just more comfortable doing the voice off thing. So they would point to the menu and order, and then I would speak because I'm not going to act deaf. And about halfway through dinner, the server was just this young kid, and he just comes over to my side and he goes, "Am I doing okay?" I'm like, "Oh, buddy, you're fine." So it just, I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a tangent there,
No,
but
if I'm hearing
yeah,
you correctly, what I'm hearing is that you are fine with curiosity. You are not as fine with judgment.
yes, yes, absolutely. Yep.
That feels very like I love it when people come up and ask me, like especially little kids always, because I have a really cool like, and of course my son decides right now after not calling for a week that he should call right now. They're darling, they're adorable. Um, editor, please remove that. I don't talk about my kids on here. So well, I mean anything specific, the other stuff is fine. Words. We were just talking and my child just interrupted my thoughts. That happens a lot, by the way. I don't know if you have
Cool,
kids.
cool disability related tech, maybe?
I'm sorry, he's going to keep calling me unless I just
Oh,
do
you're
this.
fine.
Um,
Yeah, go for it. If
just
you need to take a break, yeah.
no, we just need to send a quick WhatsApp and go. Okay, he's being very cute. Okay. I don't know if you have children or just fluffy children, but take the fluffiest and then times it by 1,000, and then be really grateful for your life and your rest and your sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, my editor will absolutely deal with this. It's totally fine.
Cool. Oh, no worries.
I know he's gonna hate me after I said that. He's gonna be like,
Oh, I can go sign off
deal
for
with
a
that.
second and
Deal
just,
with that. Thanks.
yeah.
Um, so I'm so sorry. We were discussing the curiosity versus judgment.
Mhm.
So where I wanted to ask you then is, from a legal side of if we could just wave a wand and make legal policies and then also make social policies, what would you ask for to make the world easier for you and your wife to move in?
That is, I mean, a fantastic question. I think a clear definition of when her and I have the right to an interpreter would
Mm,
be perfect. And then if we do not get a venue to do that, what do we do next? How do we fix that? The other option on that would be separate, would be, I know some countries, instead of having the venues themselves schedule the interpreter, they give a stipend to deaf and hard of hearing people. And then the deaf people will request the interpreter directly through the agency. So I'd be curious. That's one thing I don't want to answer for her
mm.
because I'm curious to see which she would prefer. And she works in an interpreting agency. So she has a lot of knowledge of this.
I have so many things I want to ask her.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to try signing again. I miss signing. I loved it. It's
When we do the follow, I am definitely gonna say, "Oh, she's fluent," and then walk
such an
away.
ass. I love you.
Yeah, yeah. You've seen my TikTok, you know.
It was an instant follow. I was like, this is so much fun. And part of the reason it was an instant follow is I don't know if you do stand-up comedy or not. I hope you do, because I got to watch something that looked like stand-up comedy and I thought I was gonna lose a kidney. I was laughing so hard. And I think that this is where, in a world of Matt Rife's, and yes, I'll call that one out by name too, because what the fuck do I care? I have no money. Don't bother suing Matt Rife. Your jaw can't take it, sir. Uh, in a world of people who think that shock value is funny,
Mhm.
uh, and punching in the wrong direction is hilarious. um, you managed to make jokes with disability funny, and it just made me think of, and I'm going to get the comedian's name wrong, and I hope I can figure it out soon because it was the best explanation I'd heard, which was when you don't let people who have disabilities have jokes and make fun and discuss their situation, you take away their humanity.
Yes.
So where's that line between allowing the humanity of laughing at what is a wild situation
Yeah.
and bullying?
It's hard to find. So I've been doing a lot of open mics, and I've recently stopped because when I go there, if I have my wife with me, it just turns into bullying. Um, you'll have a lineup of 15 to 20 comedians, and then the whole thing just turns into bully the interpreter and bully the deaf person. And they just try and say the most shocking, surprising things to get that reaction. I can only think in a year of doing open mics, doing dozens and dozens of one or two comedians that actually did an interpreter joke and made it funny. 90% of the time, it's say vagina, say penis, say I'm breaking up with you to my wife, call your wife fat, uh, or the
Wait a minute. So
biggest
I'm
one.
just need to clear this up. This was adults, right? This wasn't
Oh,
like
adults. Oh yeah, all adult men. The women never did it. I will.
funny, wild, wild, crazy. Brings me back to the
Yeah.
whole bear comments back in TikTok.
Oh yeah. The biggest one that I get that is the worst, and I actually hesitate to even bring it up here, but I think that it's important, is every single time I've gone out to an open mic here in Orlando, I've had at least four, usually 6 to 7 comedians say, sign the N-word. And I've had it from everyone, and it's awful. And I'm just like,
You know, we
I've
started
watched,
talking about how like this room is my life, this is my entire world. I'm
yeah,
starting to not regret that.
yeah,
That
yeah,
sentence alone is enough to make me go, you know what? I kind of like this. I get to talk to my wolf
yeah,
and my goblin running pug hardware and my child, my children, and my
yeah,
husband. I think I'm good. That's
yeah. It's
disgusting.
frustrating, and I do try to work on new material and things like that when I'm out doing the open mics. But I'm lucky that recently I started getting hired on to shows and doing little opening numbers for people, 10 minutes here and there. So I haven't had to do the open mics too much, but it's been awful. And but back to your point about disability in comedy, it's really been fantastic to see how many disabled comedians are out there now because it's exploding right now. So I have a friend, Aaron Belisle, might have seen him on America's Got Talent. He has cerebral palsy and he uses his iPhone to do all of his jokes. And he is hilarious. And he does crowd work. So he'll be standing there with one hand typing out a joke and replying to people, and it's amazing. So it's been cool. We just saw him 2 months ago. I said, "Hey, I'm the interpreter for your show," and then I accidentally crashed his green room before he showed up. The venue brought me in there, and I just started eating all of the snacks that they had for him. Like,
He did just like take you out right there. I mean, someone touches
it's,
my snacks, they're in trouble.
I was ready for his service dog Al to just bah, 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 bah.
That's what service dogs are supposed to do. They're supposed to keep
Yeah.
people's snacks good. Get too much peppers. Oh my goodness.
But
Um,
a lot the comedy that I do, it's making fun of the hearing people. Like I have a joke about all of the hearing people that say, "How do the two of you have sex?" It's like, what are you guys doing? You're not right. Like,
it's amazing to me. Again, I think it goes back to the infantilization of disabled people. It's this inability to imagine us as full human beings who have sex, who
yeah,
have jobs, who have lives, who have relationships. And
yeah,
that brings me to my next thing is disability in the media. And deafness has been portrayed a few times in a lot of interesting ways. And I'm curious what you think, because there's just a movie that won the Academy Award, I believe, Coda.
yes. And I will admit that personally, I live under a rock when it
Okay.
comes to movies. But the most recent one, so actually, my wife and I, our first date in person was to see A Quiet Place. So that is it's a movie about these alien monster things that hear, and a family that uses sign language, and they have a deaf daughter that's deaf in real life. And that was an amazing portrayal because they actually used the same cochlear implant that my wife has in the movie to like, kill the big bad at the end. Spoilers for a 6-year-old movie, but it was really cool seeing that. And the funny thing, and this is probably going to get both of us on another tangent, is that the captioning device broke, was not working, but there's only like 2 lines of actual spoken dialogue in the movie. Everything else is signed. So
I always want to know what people are thinking of. And by the way, that idea of your wife seeing the cochlear implant, that was the same, just cracks me. Because anytime I see like my wheelchair twin, I'm like, I feel such a connection to them. And there's an actress who uses the same wheelchair. I'm like, my heart. And like, I swear to you, the first time I saw a commercial, because I was told I was going to not be able to walk after I was 30 when I was 16. And it was like this big emotional moment for my dad. And all I could think of was the superpower of not having like anyone be able to grab my ass or like get too close to me. And I was like, this is fantastic. So because I can roll over their feet. And I'm looking at my dad going, why are you mad? This sounds great. But he was worried that I wouldn't be able to have kids. I wouldn't be able to get married, all that. He, in his head, this was just this heartbreaking situation. And it kind of like edged over to my brain as well. I saw a commercial of a mom in a wheelchair making dinner and had her toddler on a lap, and I cried. And I didn't realize how much I needed that representation. So whenever I have someone new on, I always want to like just sort of get like their temperature and how they feel like their experience and your experience. That's why I'd asked about Coda, was your experience as a partner or someone who is not deaf working and helping out someone in an disabled couple.
Yeah, we haven't noticed a lot of representation of interabled couples, or at least like I call myself a SODA, so it's a spouse of a deaf adult.
Yes, Coda is child of a deaf adult.
Yes, yep. So we haven't seen a lot of representation of that, and that's part of why her and I were like, maybe should you and I be the representation? No, and people
yes,
liked it.
You guys should. You're hilarious.
It was shocking because all of this happened with social media for us when we were doing we had our first access failure. Sorry, my corgi hates the sign for ill.
We're gonna talk about that one in a minute because that was the cutest story.
No, she heard me.
Oh, baby. I love corgis.
She doesn't like that sign. I don't know why. But yeah, we had so many people that were asking for more about our life because it's not represented. The whole soda thing, you don't see that commonly. It's nice seeing more and more representation. I still need to watch Echo. I know has deaf characters, but yeah, it's a tough question because the representation has to matter. And we're always worried that like what the venue did with the interpreter before, like after we went there, that was their representation now showing, hey, we love our deaf people. Look, we got an interpreter. We're going to post it on our social media. Why are you doing the representation? Is it representation for your sake or for representation's sake? Yeah.
I need to talk to you about karaoke night.
Yes.
Which I was in love with this idea. And I'm going to forget the name of the TikToker that I was following. I adore her. She's just the sweetest little thing. And she has the same disorders I have. She's just about 20 years behind me on it. But she was talking about the date nights she has with her spouse or her partner. And like date nights that you can do from home because people like me dislocate by moving. So a lot of her dates are like just at home playing like game nights and doing like classes online stuff. I thought that was really cute, but you guys, like, I think you win on cuteness for date nights. That is adorable. So tell me about karaoke. And then I need to absolutely understand if you've ever tried to sign Angelica's rap in Hamilton, because I need answers on that. My hands started to cramp when I was just thinking about how to do that.
So our date night started when her and I were in a long distance relationship. we were always on a FaceTime call, video call, and it started with us just buying the same ingredients for a dinner and just cooking it together. And then it progressed to, hey, let's watch something together. And then it progressed to, hey, I like this musical, you like this musical, let's interpret it together. And we would just push play at the same time. We would pick characters and we would interpret the whole thing. And then when we moved in together, one day we're just like, we should keep that going. So we did that more and more. And then we said something about it on either like a live stream or in front of people. And they were just like, I would love to see that. So we started doing it on lives and it just exploded. So we've done Hamilton, we've done Les Mis, and then every once in a while we'll just do requests and do different songs that we like. And we do what we call ASL karaoke. So we'll just throw on some music. We always have our laptop open, so we have captions, and we'll sign, and it's so much fun. Hamilton was huge for us. It's one of the first ones that we did, and we did the whole thing. She did Angelica's part. I did the Lafayette's rap in Guns and Ships, which, whew, yeah.
Ouch. But seeing you do Eliza was adorable.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Just holding on to her.
It was the cutest thing I've seen in a while.
And then I don't know if you saw, but the Hamilton account actually posted our video. So one day I'm walking around the house, I'm just like, I'm looking at my notifications, and I just went, holy shit. And I actually voiced it, and I do not voice often at home. And Emily lip read me and she goes, what's wrong? And I just went, holy shit. She's like, what happened? And I just show her and she just goes, holy shit. So we got to see all of the comments coming in. They were all positive and amazing. And just, now I'm always just like, oh yeah, we were in Hamilton. It was just, we were talking about, there's during my shot, Hamilton sings, I'm not throwing away my shot 3 times, but the interpreter signed it like I am not throwing away my shot. So that's a sign for chance. I'm not throwing away my shot because they're singing in a bar, and then I am not throwing away my shot.
That brings me to another thing I want to talk about, because I hate the toxic positivity, but I love real positivity.
Yes.
And I feel like for all of us with disabilities or dealing with someone with disabilities, there is a superpower. Like we all have like something that we're like, yeah, I wouldn't choose this, but this part's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of cool. It's when someone annoys me, I can roll over their toes. I'm that. I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, but when I'm not in public, I absolutely need to use my wheelchair just to stay safe. And yeah, I've absolutely gone over someone's feet or into someone's ankles before. That is not a legal statement. Don't sue me. But I'm wondering, like, because like I have very little experience with, well, I have some experience with sign language, and I always thought the coolest part of it were the visual jokes. And with what you just said, like the shot, and the ability to show that visually where we can't necessarily get across all of the meanings of each word, that just blows me. Is there something that you just are like, yeah, this is really fucking cool about sign or deafness? Or
I think that you already understand.
Every once in a while, I know, understand. Yep.
Stand, but under, yeah.
Yep. So if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. Go over to our YouTube channel. And you're going to want to go to our YouTube channel anyway and watch this video. I know I haven't been posting a lot of our episodes. I will post this one mostly because you also have to see the cat. That cat's so freaking cute. But yeah, we're doing some sign language jokes. So what we just saw, if you're listening to this, I'm just going to explain it. It's the hand flat and up, and then the 2 fingers like you're standing is right underneath the hand. There are a billion of these adorably fun, and I was crap at language. Sign language for me, when I was doing it, I picked it up so fast when I was doing it every day. It just felt natural.
Yeah.
So yeah. I feel like I need to bring up something that slayed me, because alarm clocks are kind of a thing that a lot of people have to deal with, and you have a very special alarm clock in your house.
Yeah, she's barking at the door right now.
Yeah,
We have Eowyn the corgi, and she immediately. So I've had her for I think she's 10 now, and I had her for 4 years before she even met my wife, and I swear day two that she met my wife, she's like, okay, she's deaf, she's not replying to me. I'm going tactile. I mean, this is deaf accessibility corgi, and for alarms, I am a heavy, heavy sleeper, and so is my wife. I mean, very hard to wake up a deaf person. But my corgi learned that, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to bother with trying to wake him up." She learned to slam her body against the side of the bed where she sleeps, where my wife sleeps, and will just wake her up.
That's
It's
the cutest, most adorable thing. I just picturing a corgi, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, like the queen has them. They're called fairy dogs. I love that. I on another podcast I do history for kids. I did a whole episode on the history of corgis because
oh
fairy dogs, because in
yeah.
Scottish lore, fairies would ride them like horses, and
Mhm. That's why
that's
they have
yeah.
the strap down their nose for the saddle.
The space is just slaying me. Yeah, you got to go. Like seriously, just take a minute to go over to our website and watch the video. This is oddly disturbing and cute.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that.
So at the end of our episodes, we always ask, or I always ask one question. I stole it from Tim Ferriss. What under $100 has actually been awesome in your lives? It doesn't have to be disability related. I'm just very tired of the wellness community selling me shit because I'm gullible and I will buy it.
Mhm.
And it makes me mad. And I always want to know what works because I have a graveyard of stuff that does not work.
Yeah.
I was curious if you have anything that like it doesn't even like for me, it's this mattress cover that I got from Sealy. They do not sponsor me, but it's a whole bed that's a heating pad.
Ooh,
It's heaven. It
love
is the
that.
best thing that's ever existed. For sore muscles. I don't think I could live without it at this point. That was like $99, so it's totally worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine was cheap. Mine was, I think, $35. It's from Phonak. That's a company that does hearing aids, and it's earplugs. I am cursed with being the true opposite of my wife here. I have sensitive little baby ears, and I get overwhelmed with sound. And her and I, we play competitive pinball, which is just like crazy, bang, 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 bang. Um, and then we do a lot of concerts. So the best thing that I have is my keychain has a little hearing protection thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I
Yeah.
hear it like because in our household we're my youngest and I are so ADD, it's insane.
Mhm.
And our rage when we get interrupted when we're in a flow is crazy. So we both have these noise canceling headphones on like 24/7 to not people. I hear that. Yeah. Follow Signing D on TikTok and Instagram. Please support the burgeoning comedy career because where I was dying. It was so, and I'm a comedy fiend. I'm a comedy nerd. And that was hilarious. I haven't laughed at hard since Mrs. Maisel went off the air. Um,
Oh, that's part of
that's my
what
highest
inspired
compliment.
me.
Yeah. Taylor Thompson. She's doing the late night show now, and she's like one of my favorites too. And like
Oh,
I felt like that was
yeah.
pretty close on the level there. I'm highly impressed. That was so funny. So please follow Signing D, and I assume you'll be talking more about what you'll want people to do to help advocate on your channels.
Yeah, one of the big things is just kind of knowing our story, knowing how to interact. When you see a signing couple, don't be terrified. We're just
Hmm.
people. If you know a little bit of sign language and you want to come up and practice it, great. If you
No,
see,
because you're going to tell your deaf partner that they're fluent.
well, yeah, maybe not with me. I might be the wrong person. But just in general, when you see people that are signing, maybe two deaf people, if you want to say, hi, how are you? Great. And then just kind of read the room a little bit. If you see that they're like, okay, oh, hey, this is awesome, let's sign. Great. If you see them go, fine, and then keep walking, don't, attach yourself to them. We've had experiences like that where I had an awful, awful day, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to get a drink and some food and then just be left alone. And people saw us signing, sat down, and we're like, I know the ABCs, and I'm just like, 99.9% of the time, I'd be like, hell yeah, show me them all. But I was just like, oh God, okay, not just great. So it's just reading the room a little bit. And then don't be embarrassed if you are hard of hearing in any way and you want captioning or access. Um, if you don't be embarrassed to request a captioning device in the movies. Don't think that you're stealing them from other deaf people or somebody that might need them more than you, because first of all, no, if you need it, you need it. That's it. That's the end of the conversation. It's not an Olympics of who needs it the most. They have to have them, so use them. And second, we actually love when people request captioning devices because most employees are not trained in how to use them. So the only way that they'll be more familiar with using them is if more people use them.
Brilliant. Head to our show notes. We'll have a link directly to your TikTok and to your Instagram and whatever else you would like us to promote. And I hope you and your wife come back on sometime soon.
I would love to. This was so much fun. I could sit here for another 2 or 3 hours, but the corgi is looking at me like, no, you can't.
Yeah, no, I think we both have people around and pets around who are like, hey, y'all have taken up enough time here. This is wonderful. Everyone, please be kind, be gentle, be fierce. And we've had some change ups in our show lineup. We've had a lot of sick people. We are run by sick people, so that's just to be expected. So you'll probably get a new episode in the next week or so. All right, where's my record button? There's my record button. This was beyond fun, Derek.
So much fun. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I didn't want to admit this until it was done, and if I did a good enough job, but this is the first podcast I've ever done. So woo.
No.
Yeah.
No, you are natural at this. Oh my gosh. So that was like the next thing I was going to just throw out there for you and your wife to consider is we're a podcast network for disability. So we have other podcasts on. I don't know if you checked out our website, but we
I did, a little bit.
Sent out. But we just had cancellations of shows because one of our people has cancer now and can continue, which is just Texas sucks. I don't know which one's in a race for the bottom, but Texas and Florida, and sorry if you love being in Florida, my apologies.
I don't. Nope.
As an owner of ovaries and and an owner of legs that don't work, those two states terrify me. So we do have slots open for shows. So if you and your wife want to consider running your own My Crazy Life, My Crazy Wife podcast, feel free to reach out to me if that's something that interests you guys. I would love to have an interdating show on the podcast network. I think that would be amazing. You guys would be hilarious.
I'll keep you posted.
It could be a lot of fun.
A super busy life.
Yeah, no worries. I just want to tell you, I stay out of everything. It's just I don't allow hate speech and I don't allow people to sell things. Other than that, I don't care.
Yeah. No worries there. The only hate speech that I have will be self-deprecating.
I hear that. My only hate speech is to Republicans, so and racists and misogynists. Anyway, I hear you. You're super busy. No worries. I do hope you guys come on the podcast again. This was a blast.
I would love to do this again with her.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't think this went live to YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'll send you a link so you guys can download it or watch it directly even before it goes up online.
Okay.
I don't usually do that just because I have no energy. But if there's anything on there that you're like, no, let me know and I can pull the episode. We can re-record another time and I'll just kind of, this was a fun way to get to know you. And that's fine too.
Yeah, I think it should be pretty good.
I think it was probably one of the best episodes we've done this year. This is
thanks.
I don't usually get people who are funny on, and it's so fun.
Yeah, it was a blast, and I really do hope that we can all get together with my wife and do another one of these, and because the dynamic between her and I it's
hilarious. You guys are great.
Yeah, I'm half of myself without her. So the original intent was for her to pop in during this, but she had a death in the family like last week. She left here Friday and she just said, hey, I've got to go. Please take care of the pets, and shot up to Tennessee. So I've been holding down the fort. But
give her my condolences. We just had that here. So Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I'm sure you are going to be deeply supportive of her. And,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
um,
was like, I'll go with you, but it didn't work out where I could get up there with work and everything. And but yeah, I would love to get all of us on together
so
because
fun. Yeah, just reach out and say hi.
yeah,
And thank you for the corgi. I needed that. That was lovely.
awesome, awesome. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Have a great night, Eric.
You too.